Welcome to the Unwanted Matter miniseries. This miniseries was written and narrated by Matt Spear and published with the help of Junior Art Lab. Episode 2, The Hunters. Deep in the depth of space, a particle energy feels the presence of two beings across the galaxy, just as four figures, dressed in heavy armor, walk into the chamber of the temple that the energy is within. A bright beam of purple light flashes over their eyes. The air around them freezes as the energy speaks out in a loud, booming voice. "Over the centuries you have helped bring me souls." The figures nod. Before they came to serve, they were a group of explorers from a wealthy, populated planet. It started out just of two of them, a young couple named Jill and John. They met on an exploration and fell in love. They would travel all over their home planet until there was nothing left on it to explore, so they set sail for the stars. They visited several planets, and on the way they met two other explorers who joined them. Their names were David and Waldo. They were siblings who also had a strong compulsion to explore the galaxy. The four of them quickly became close and set out on their next expedition. In the present day, the four explorers, now called hunters, stand in the temple as the energy, which they call the Master, speaks to them. "I have felt the presence of coming from the planet Earth. Two souls have absorbed an incredible amount of power from me. When that astronaut broke off a piece of the temple, the figures seem to have had contact with it. If I absorb that power, then I will have a physical form. This is the opportunity we have been waiting for. If you bring them to me, then your freedom shall be restored. This could be your last mission if you succeed." The Master orders. The hunters salute and walk out of the temple, their shiny armor jingling as they walk back into the fields of dead grass. They have a new mission, their final mission to fulfill, to put all their strength into, and they begin making preparations to head to Earth. As the morning sun begins to rise over the horizon in the clearing of a park, the purple light fades away from the dark asteroid it was within. The loud hiss coming from the rock fades out too, as birds start to chirp in the trees. Next to the rock, lying on the ground unconscious, are Mark and Stephen. A sliver of warm sunlight hits their backs, and they slowly open their eyes. For a brief moment, a glow of purple light shines from their eyes, but in a blink it's gone. Mark slowly sits up. He is very dizzy and struggles to remember what happened the night before. As he slowly stands up, he feels a sense of power flow through him. It cannot be described what he feels like, only that it feels like a part of him has been added underneath his skin. He feels a strange feeling as it flows through his veins like sludge would flow. On the ground, Stephen moans as he slowly wakes up. He feels the sensation of something flowing through him as well. He opens his eyes and stares at the asteroid. Anger flashes over him. He stands up to face Mark. "Why would you touch the rock?" he screams. He is livid at Mark. Even though he told Mark not to touch the rock, he still did it anyways. He only thinks about what he wants to do, not the consequences involved. "You did not have to follow me. That was your choice," Mark yells back. "You knew the rock was dangerous, but you didn't listen anyways. Did you even think about why there was blood dripping down it?" Stephen cries out. Mark's heart feels like it is about to burst from his chest. His anger is boiling inside of him. He's clenching his fists so hard they turn red, and sweat drips down his face. Behind them comes a loud squeak of a squirrel. Mark turns around to find a squirrel hitting the ground in a small, open area surrounded by trees, as if the squirrel fell from the sky. Stephen glares at Mark and then storms off to his car. He needs to call Victoria and ensure her that he is all right. "You always think you know better. You always think that you're so much better than me," Mark mutters tauntingly. Mark turns in the opposite direction, but stops when he notices the asteroid again. He stares into the blank rock as he picks it up. He remembers touching it the night before and feeling a huge amount of pain, but he cannot remember anything else. The next thing he remembers was waking up. Something happened to him. He can feel it, but he cannot figure out what. Little does Mark know that across the galaxy, more trouble lies in store for him as the hunters make preparations to head to Earth. They walk through the endless fields of dead grass as they make their way through a maze of spaceships standing in the middle of the field of dead grass, just as they did when they first arrived on this planet. Thousands of years before, the 4 explorers touched their spaceship down on the planet of the Temple. John breathed out in amazement as he inspected the dead grass. "It's amazing. This grass is dead, but at the same time is thriving like live grass would." David spoke out in equal amazement. "We must take samples of this back with us." Jill pointed her flashlight out into the distance. Through the thick fog that was blocking out the view of the distance, the explorers could make out several large objects in the distance. The explorers eagerly approached them. As they got closer, they turned out to be spaceships. They all had different shapes and designs. Some were big and spacious, like the ships the explorers arrived on, but others were small and circular, like ships from Earth pop culture. John inspected the ships with curiosity. "It looks like we weren't the first people to come to this planet. And they're all from different species," Waldo notices. "Something bad happened here. I think you should return to the ship," Jill expresses. Quickly, the explorers ran to their ship and took off. However, when they were about to leave the planet, a mysterious force started pulling the ship back down. It crashed back into the fields of dead grass. The explorers got out to investigate. "Nothing touched our ship, but something pulled it back down," David said, concerned. Something was off about this planet. The fog directly ahead of them cleared, illuminating a dark temple. The explorers slowly lurked towards the temple. They were compelled to go near it. Their entire attention was focused on the temple. It was as if they were hypnotized by it. Slowly, they made their way towards the temple. On the top floor of a metropolitan condo, Victoria is pacing back and forth, a phone in her hand, trying to reach Stephen. When Stephen didn't come home the night before, she panicked and even considered notifying the police. The door to the condo opens and Stephen walks in. Victoria puts down her phone on top of the boot cupboard and walks towards Stephen, hugging him. "Where were you?" I just need to sit down for a moment." Stephen lies down on the living room couch. Victoria goes to the kitchen and makes Stephen a cup of tea and brings it over to Stephen. Stephen slowly sits up and takes a sip. "You look pale. Is everything okay?" Victoria sits down. I was feeling fine last night, but then Mark and I touched this weird rock." "What kind of rock was it? Maybe you picked up a parasite?" "It doesn't feel physical. It just feels different. Like a part of myself has been unlocked." "You're a scientist. Have you ever seen something like this before in your work?" "I've never seen anything like it. It had this strange light. It was not like anything I've ever seen before." "A strange light? Maybe we should send it into the lab at the CIA. I'm sure my colleagues would be interested." "Mark took it. I'm gonna go give him a call." "No, you go lie down. I'll call him." Victoria walks into the other room and walks towards the phone, but it's not on the boot cupboard. She walks back into the living room to find it on the coffee table beside the couch. How did that get there? She picks it up and dials Mark's number. The phone in Mark's kitchen rings. Mark walks up to it and looks at the number. He knows it is Stephen who is calling. This time, Mark is not going to answer and have Stephen yell at him again. He always does that. Mark declines the call, but Stephen rings again. Mark declines it, but Stephen rings once more. Anger flows through Mark. His brother would never give him a break. The ringing suddenly stops. A rush of relief flows through Mark, but when he goes to reach out to put the phone away, he cannot find it. That was another thing that went missing this morning. From the other room, another phone goes off. Mark walks towards it, expecting it to be Stephen calling again. Mark sighs deeply as he picks up the phone. He's going to tell Stephen to leave him alone for good. He cannot take this anymore. He's tired of having to deal with him. Hello, this is Stephen's wife, Victoria. A voice comes from the other side of the phone. Stephen has not been feeling too well recently. He mentioned something about touching a strange rock. Are you feeling okay? Mark looks at the rock. How does he feel? I feel like a part of myself has been unclogged. He said the same thing. I think there's something weird about this rock. Maybe you should come over and give it to us for analysis. That way we should make sure it's nothing serious. Sure, I'll be right over there tonight, Mark answers back. He then begins to wonder, what if there was something in that rock? That night, in the middle of a pitch-black park, a bright beam of light appears, and when it flashes off, the hunters begin walking towards where the asteroid was, just as the explorers made their way into the temple thousands of years ago. Their minds blank, the explorers slowly made their way into the temple chamber. That was the first time they ever had any contact with the energy. A loud hiss came from the temple walls as mist started shooting from it. As the mist touched their bodies, they started disintegrating instantly. The explorers screamed in pain. What are you? Why are you doing this? A bright light shined out, blinding their eyes. You are going to help give me a physical form by sacrificing your souls. The energy spoke. The explorers' skin had disintegrated and their flesh was showing. So you want to consume souls? What if we brought you some in exchange for our lives? John pleaded. The mist had disintegrated most of their bodies. Only their bones were left. Suddenly the mist stopped, and the energy's next words brought joy among the young explorers. We have a deal. You bring me more souls, and I will spare yours. Red mist then began to shoot from the temple. As it touched them, bright, shiny armor began to sprout from their skin. The explorers screamed in such pain that nothing could be heard above it. 4 beams of purple light then shot out from the walls and entered the explorers. It flowed through their bodies. With this job will come powers. Each of you will be given an ability to help bring your souls. Objects around John then began to move like crazy. Jill's body kept changing into different forms. Every time David breathed, blue dust kept blowing out of his mouth and manifesting into creatures, beings disintegrated by the energy. Meanwhile, a bright light kept shining around Waldo, and every time it flashed off, he'd be in another area of the temple. The purple shine faded away into the explorers, the armor now covering their entire skin. The explorers were then lifted off the ground and suspended in the air. White lights slowly started exiting the explorers' bodies and entering the temple. With this power, I hereby own your freedom. And with that freedom, the feeling of love, care, joy, and happiness. Never again shall you feel these emotions until you have fulfilled your purpose. When I have a physical form, you shall then be free. Until that day, you shall be here to serve me. You are now entitled to servitude for as long as I shall be in this state. I hereby condemn you now to service as your master. It is time to begin the conquest of souls that you have promised to begin me. The energy gave them the title Hunters, and himself the title Master, and stripped away any identity the explorers may have had before. The hunters were only supposed to be called by their names as a hunter and a number. For example, Hunter 1. Over thousands of years, the hunters brought soul after soul after soul after soul for the master, but it was never enough. Now, in the present, however, they knew that finding the brothers could be their last hope. Then they would be free and no longer have to serve the master, be free to explore the galaxy once more, be able to feel the emotions of love and care, joyfulness and happiness. The hunters walk towards the dark asteroid where it was before Mark took it, their armor clanking as they walk. "Play it through, 3, Hunter 1 orders. Hunter 3 steps over the asteroid and bends down. He blows blue dust everywhere. The dust manifests into shapes of the brothers touching the rock, waking up the next day, and the trees disappearing. Hunter 3 gasps in amazement. It looks like they may have received some abilities by touching the temple. Hunter 1 steps closer to Hunter 2. Then we must be on guard. If they have abilities, they could be very dangerous. Hunter 3 points into the distance as the blue dust walks over. It looks like the two of them left that way. Then let's follow, Hunter 1 orders. Hunter 2 stares into the distance. This could be it. Our chance to regain our freedom. Hunter 4 grabs the other 3. A flash of light appears, and the hunters teleport away. Mark knocks his hand against Stephen's condo door. Victoria opens it and leads Mark into the dining room, where Stephen is sitting. Are you feeling any better? Stephen and I have been very worried. Victoria looks at Stephen. Stephen does not say anything. He just keeps looking at Mark. Mark sits down. Did you bring the rock? Stephen asks. Mark reaches into his pocket and hands it out to Victoria. The rock had become very gray since the morning. Have you ever seen anything like this in your lab? He asks. Victoria holds up the rock into view in the light. She squints her eyes and holds it closer to her face. No, but maybe some of my colleagues do. Somebody must know. Behind them, the glass window breaks as 4 intruders, dressed in heavy armor, enter the condo. You're coming with us, one of the intruders informs. Victoria quickly hides the rock in her shirt pocket. Stephen and Mark quickly hide under the table, shaking. Are they after the rock? Stephen exclaims to Mark. Get out of my house! Victoria screams in complete panic. One of the intruders pushes her away, using his telekinesis. Stephen runs towards Victoria, but is punched into the table by Hunter 3. Fear begins to grip in Mark's throat. Hunter 4 approaches Mark. Mark sits there, frozen in fear. The hunter picks up a knife from the kitchen table. He bends down and attempts to stab Mark's leg. Suddenly, the knife disappears right before it makes contact with Mark. Mark runs into the kitchen, heading towards the door as the intruder runs after him. From the bedroom comes a cry of Stephen's 5-year-old son, Billy. Hunter 2 runs towards the bedroom. Victoria pulls out a phone from her pocket and dials the CIA. This is Victoria, assistant chemist, staff number 44411. I need backup at my condo. 4 strange people have come for the rock. Victoria is knocked out as a plate smashes against her head by Hunter 1's telekinesis. Mark continues running towards the door. He is so close. The door is only a few feet away from him. Mark looks behind him to see how close the intruder is, but he's not behind him. Mark grins confidently. He opens the door to find the intruder standing right in front of him. The intruder grabs his shirt. Mark feels panic flow through him. He waves his arms wildly in the air at the intruder. He leans his head back and notices the chandelier hanging above him. Mark reaches his hands towards it. The chandelier holder above them disappears, and the chandelier falls above the intruder, crashing on top of him, but also blocking the doorway. Mark tries pushing the chandelier out of the way, but it will not move. Sweat begins to drip down his face. His heart beats in and out uncontrollably. Stephen runs to Billy's bedroom. Billy is lying on the floor, crying. Stephen runs up to him and is about to pick him up when Billy turns into one of the intruders. Stephen's eyes widen in surprise. Before he gets a chance to think, Hunter 2 slashes him in the face. Stephen falls to the ground in pain. Hunter 2 approaches him. Stephen holds out his hands towards the intruder. Without warning, a piece of scrap metal enters in his path. Hunter 2 hits it head-on and stumbles back, temporarily immobilized. Stephen breathes a sigh of relief. Stephen hears a cry of Billy coming from the closet. Stephen runs and picks up Billy. He's carrying him down the stairwell when he is caught in Hunter 1's telekinesis. He tries moving, but it is no use. He is completely helpless. Mark is still trying to break through the chandelier. Panic flows through him. He is pushing the chandelier harder and harder, but it will not move. A flash of light appears behind Mark. Mark turns around to find the intruder that was crushed underneath the chandelier is standing right behind him. He grabs Mark by the scruff of his neck and brings him into the dining room. Hunter 1 brings Stephen and Billy into the dining room as well. Hunter 1 smiles proudly. 4, take these two to the master. Hunter 4 grabs both of the brothers. The chandelier flies into the hunters, knocking them back and freeing the brothers from their grasp. CIA agents storm into the room, holding guns at the hunters. Don't move and put your hands in the air. You're under arrest. We can take them, Hunter 4 grins. No, that was not part of the plan. Fall back to the master, Hunter 1 orders. Hunter 4 grabs the other hunters. A flash of light appears. The CIA starts shooting at them. The light flashes off, and the hunters are gone. The director of the CIA walks into the room and looks at the brothers. Do you know what those intruders are or what they wanted? The brothers shake their heads. The assistant chemist called me in. You two are in danger here. Come with us and we can protect you. They all quickly evacuate the building and join the CIA, hoping the hunters would not find them again. Where will the CIA take the brothers? What were the strange appearances and disappearances around the brothers? And will the hunters find the brothers again? Come back next time in the Unwanted Matter miniseries to find out. Thank you for listening.